Archivist Tay noticed something strange while working at the Galactic Archives. His scaled fingers moved quickly across the glowing control panel as he looked at information about different alien species. Tay had worked with thousands of files before, but what he found today shocked him. "Director Hyun, please come look at this," Tay called out, his voice shaking slightly. Director Hyun moved gracefully across the shiny crystal floor. Her official archive robes caught the light as she approached. "What have you found, Archivist?" "It's about humans, from Earth in the Sol system." Tay pointed to a glowing label on the screen. "Look here. They're marked as fictional beings. This label hasn't changed for 300 years. Hyun blinked, several times with her inner eyelids showing her surprise. "That can't be right. We have so many records about their history, how their bodies work, and their home planet." "But the label is still there," Tay said. He pulled up a new image showing a map of communication networks across the galaxy. "And it gets worse. This wrong information has spread to every important database in all Council space." Tay searched through more files, finding thousands of references to humans in historical documents, scientific studies, and cultural analyses. Yet somehow, the master classification still listed them as creatures of fiction, like talking animals, in children's stories or monsters from scary tales. "This is very serious," Director Hyun said. "The entire galactic community believes humans don't really exist. They think humans are just made-up beings from old stories." Tay nodded. "Some of these files suggest humans were created as teaching examples. Fictional creatures with both good and bad traits to help young aliens learn moral lessons." Director Hyun's face showed deep concern. "When did this error start?" Tay searched through the archive history. "About 3 centuries ago. There was a major update to the Encyclopedia Galactica. The human file was changed then, but I can't see who did it or why." At that same moment, far away on Earth, things were very different. Commander June stood tall in Earth's orbital command center, watching the final preparations for humanity's first official contact with alien civilizations. The starship Horizon floated in space, ready for its historic journey. It was Earth's most advanced ship, built to carry human representatives to the Galactic Council station. Through the large window, June could see the ship's silver hull gleaming in the sunlight. "All systems are working perfectly," reported Navigator Min from his control station. "We're ready to leave when you give the word." Commander June nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. Humans had dreamed of meeting alien life for thousands of years. Now they would finally join the galactic community as equals. "Tiknak. Huss out," June ordered, his voice calm and professional despite his excitement. The Horizon's engines glowed bright blue as the ship moved away from Earth. None of the crew knew what awaited them. They expected to be welcomed as a new species joining the galactic community. They had prepared for cultural differences, strange customs, and communication challenges. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that they were about to introduce themselves to a galaxy that thought they were imaginary creatures. Back at the archives, Tay worked quickly to prepare a report for the council. "We need to fix this immediately," Director Hyun said. "The humans could make contact any day now." "I've checked the approaching ship schedules," Tay replied, his voice tense. "There's an unknown vessel coming to the council station next week. The arrival codes match what we would expect from Earth." Hyun's skin changed color slightly, showing her alarm. "They're already coming? We're not prepared for this. How do you tell an entire galaxy that creatures they think are make-believe are actually real?" Tay wondered aloud. "And how," added Hyun, "do you explain to these humans that no one believes they exist?" As the Horizon moved smoothly through space toward its destination, carrying humans filled with hope and excitement, a wave of panic was about to spread through the galaxy. Panic caused by the arrival of beings that, according to the official records, were simply not real. The Horizon slipped out of fold space, its engines humming quietly as it approached the massive Galactic Council station. Through the main window, the crew saw an amazing sight. The station looked like a giant silver flower floating in space, with 8 huge petal-shaped sections around a round center hub. It's beautiful, whispered Navigator Min, staring at the massive structure. Commander June nodded. Send the greeting, message we prepared. Let them know Earth comes in peace. Communications Officer Sue pressed several buttons on her control panel. After a moment, her face showed confusion. Commander, we're getting something back, but it's strange. Many voices all talking at once in different languages. Our translation computer is having trouble keeping up. The main screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. An alien with blue skin and large eyes appeared briefly. Its mouth moved rapidly before the image disappeared. Then another alien face appeared, this one with scales and no visible ears. It also vanished quickly. The screen kept changing, showing different rooms where various alien beings rushed around in what looked like panic. What's happening? Commander June asked. Did we do something wrong? Security Chief Jun leaned forward, studying the images. They seem scared. Look at how they're running. Are they evacuating the station? Sue listened carefully to her earpiece. I'm picking up emergency signals. Warning messages in at least 20 different languages. She looked up, her eyes wide. I think they're afraid of us. That's impossible, June said. They invited us. The council approved our arrival weeks ago. The Horizon continued its approach, following the docking instructions they had received earlier. The massive ship moved slowly toward one of the petal sections where a large docking bay door opened to receive them. No ships are coming to meet us, June noted. No escort vessels. This doesn't follow standard first contact procedures they sent us. When the Horizon finally docked and secured itself to the station, Ambassador Sung led the diplomatic team to the airlock. They wore their formal Earth uniforms, specially designed for this historic occasion. Each person carried small gifts present to the council representatives. Remember, Sung told his team, we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Sung stepped forward, ready to greet the welcoming committee. But instead of the grand reception they expected, they found an empty docking bay. The huge space could hold hundreds of beings, but only a small group of aliens stood waiting for them. Most of them wore simple robes with symbols that looked like writing. They seemed more like office workers than important officials. A tall, thin alien stepped forward from the small group. It had pale green skin and moved with careful, precise steps. I am Archivist Tay, the alien said through a small translation device. Please remain where you are and try to stay calm. Your arrival has accidentally caused a major emergency throughout the station. Ambassador Sung looked confused. He glanced back at his team before answering. We followed all the approach protocols exactly as instructed. We sent our identification and arrival messages at the proper times. The problem is not with your procedures, Tay explained, his long fingers moving nervously. The problem is more fundamental. You see, for the past 300 years, humans have been classified in our galactic archives as fictional beings, creatures that do not actually exist. The diplomatic team stared in shock. Tay continued, most beings on this station believe they are currently facing an invasion by imaginary monsters. They think you are not real. Not real? Commander June repeated. But we've been sending signals into space for centuries. We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades. Yes, and those signals were received. Tay nodded. But they were categorized as elaborate hoaxes or misidentified transmissions from other species. Before Ambassador Sung could respond, loud alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed along the walls. Tay's translator device struggled to keep up as the archivist spoke quickly to his colleagues. Turning back to the humans, Tay's voice became urgent. The station's ancient defense systems are activating. They were programmed to protect against all threats, including impossible entity intrusions. The station's computer cannot reconcile your physical presence with your classification as fictional beings. What does that mean? Security Chief, June asked, her hand moving to her side where a small defensive weapon was holstered. It means, Tay said grimly, that the station is preparing to remove what it sees as an impossible threat. You. Engineer Hai blinked several times. Not sure. She had heard correctly. She looked at the alien scientist sitting across from her, trying to understand what he had just said. "You believe we can do what?" she asked again. Researcher Ben adjusted his position in the seat that was clearly not designed for human bodies. The blue-skinned alien consulted his datapad before answering. "Regenerate severed limbs," he repeated calmly. The Valaxian texts, which many consider to be reliable historical documents, describe humans regrowing arms and legs within days after losing them. Hai looked around at her fellow humans, who seemed equally confused. The Earth delegation had been kept in special rooms on the Galactic Council station for the past week. During this time, Archivist Tay and Director Hyun had been working hard to convince the council members that humans were real living beings, not creatures from stories. Now, the humans were finally meeting with alien scientists who studied different species. The meeting room was large, with strange plants growing along the walls and soft light coming from glowing panels in the ceiling. "That's impossible," Hai said finally. "We can heal small cuts and broken bones, but we can't regrow entire limbs." Researcher. Ben made a note on his pad. "Interesting. This is quite different from what our texts describe." Security Chief Jun was looking through another file that had been translated into English. Her eyes widened as she read. "According to this," Jun said, holding up the screen, "humans can survive in the vacuum of space for several hours without protection. It says we can hold our breath long enough to travel between space stations if necessary." Ambassador Sung sighed deeply and rubbed his forehead. "These aren't just small mistakes, they're complete impossibilities. Humans die in vacuum within minutes, just like most other species would." Director Hyun, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. The tall alien touched a control panel, and a three-dimensional image appeared in the center of the room. It showed what looked like humans in ancient armor, fighting with strange weapons on a battlefield. "The most concerning myths are the war stories," Director Hyun explained. "This is from The Battlefields of Cantor, which is taught to young aliens as historical fact. It describes humans fighting for many days without stopping to rest or eat, completely ignoring injuries that would kill most other species. The image changed to show a human warrior continuing to fight, despite having what looked like several spears stuck through his body. Obviously exaggerated," Commander June commented. "The Berserker Chronicles are even more extreme," added Archivist Tay, changing the image again. "They suggest humans can enter special mental states where they feel no pain at all and become nearly unstoppable in battle." The new image showed a human with glowing red eyes, surrounded by fallen enemies. Ambassador Sung stood up, clearly frustrated. "We're just people," he insisted. "Normal biological beings with limitations like anyone else in the galaxy. We feel pain. We need rest. We die from serious injuries." Researcher Ben tilted his head, studying the humans with great interest. "Perhaps," he said thoughtfully, "but your actual capabilities are still remarkable by galactic standards. Your adaptability alone is unprecedented." "What do you mean?" asked Navigator Min. "Humans can live in more different environments than any species we know," Ben explained. "You can survive in temperatures that would kill most beings. You can eat a wider variety of foods. You can recover from injuries that would be fatal to others." "That's just normal for us," Engineer Hai said. "Not normal for the rest of the galaxy," Director Hyun replied. "Many species evolved in very specific conditions and can only survive in similar environments. Most need special equipment to visit other worlds." Ambassador Sung sat down again thinking. "So while the myths about us are greatly exaggerated, there might be some small truth behind them?" "Precisely," said Archivist Tay. "Somewhere in your species history, someone observed humans' natural resilience and adaptability. Over time, as your story was told and retold, these traits became more and more exaggerated, until you became legendary creatures with impossible abilities, like a game of telephone," Hai murmured. "A what?" asked Ben. "A children's game on Earth," Hai explained. "One child whispers a message to another, who whispers it to the next, and so on. By the time it reaches the last child, the message has usually changed completely." "An excellent analogy," Tay said. It seems the galaxy has been playing telephone with information about humans for centuries. Security Chief Jun picked up another file. According to this, we can see through walls. Commander Jun laughed. I wish. And this one says we can communicate telepathically with machines. Added Navigator Min as the humans continued to discover more bizarre myths about themselves. They didn't know whether to laugh or be concerned. They had come expecting to deal with cultural differences, but not to be treated as legendary creatures with magical powers. The Great Council chamber was silent as Elder Dal walked slowly to the center platform. His skin was pale and wrinkled, with age, and his three-fingered hands trembled slightly as he gripped the speaking podium. The classification was deliberate, Elder Dal announced, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. Humans were intentionally labeled as fictional beings. Gasps filled the room. The human delegation, seated in a special section, looked at each other in shock. Around them, the representatives from 200 alien civilizations buzzed with surprise and confusion. The council chair, a tall being with feathery skin, stood up. Explain yourself, Elder, she demanded. What do you mean by deliberate? Elder Dal touched a hidden control on the podium. Suddenly, the center of the chamber filled with moving images. The council members watched footage of Earth from centuries, early rocket launches, atomic bomb tests, wars, and environmental problems. 800 years ago, Elder Dal explained, a special group of species who could predict future events observed humanity's development pattern. This group, which called itself the Safety Coalition, determined that humans were different from any species we had seen before. The images showed more scenes from Earth's history, including rapid technological advances. The Safety Coalition saw that humans developed technology extremely quickly. They were very competitive with each other, but also worked together when needed. They could adapt to almost any situation. The coalition predicted that humans would either destroy themselves or potentially become the dominant species in the galaxy within a few thousand years. Ambassador Sung stood up from his seat. His face showed both anger and disbelief. So you simply erased us from history? He asked. You pretended we didn't exist? Elder Dal shook his head slowly. We did not erase you. We reclassified you. By marking humans as fictional beings, we allowed galactic civilization to develop without your disruptive influence. But we continued to monitor your progress closely. Why? Asked Commander Jun, standing beside Sung. The plan was to integrate humans gradually into galactic society if you survived your own development challenges, Dali answered. If you overcame your wars, resource problems, and environmental issues, you would be ready to join us. And now? Jun pressed. What happens now that we're here? Elder Dal looked tired. His eyes moved slowly around the chamber, taking in the faces of the various council members. Now we face a choice, he replied. We must decide whether to welcome an unpredictable species or contain the threat you represent. Threat? Engineer Hai stepped forward, her voice rising with emotion. We came seeking friendship. We traveled all this way to make peaceful contact, to learn and share knowledge. Even friendly humans, Dal said softly, might unintentionally destroy civilizations that evolved toward stability rather than adaptability. The chamber erupted with voices as council members argued among themselves. Some shouted that humans should be welcomed. Others demanded they be sent away immediately. Ambassador Sung raised his hands, asking for silence. Gradually, the noise died down. May I speak? He asked the council chair. She nodded, and Sung moved to stand beside Elder Dal at the center platform. I understand your fears, Sung began. Looking at our history, I can see why you might be concerned. But the humanity that stands before you today is not the same as the humanity in those old images. Sung pointed to the footage that still played, showing wars and environmental destruction. We learned from those mistakes. We survived those challenges. Yes, we are still competitive, but we channel that into creation, not destruction. Yes, we adapt quickly, but we use that ability to solve problems, not to dominate others. Some council members nodded in agreement. Others still looked doubtful. Elder Dal turned to face Sung. The Safety Coalition predicted two possible futures for humanity. In one, you destroyed yourselves through war or environmental collapse. In the other, you spread throughout the galaxy so quickly that other species could not compete. There is a third possibility you didn't consider, Sung replied. That we would grow up. That we would learn to balance competition with cooperation. That we would use our adaptability to help others, not just ourselves. Another member of the Safety Coalition stood up from his seat. How can we be sure, he asked. How can we know which path humans will take? You can't, Commander June said honestly. Just as we can't know what your species will do in the future. Trust is always a risk. The council chair called for order. We need time to consider this matter, she announced. The human delegation will return to their quarters while we discuss. As the humans were led from the chamber, Ambassador Sung turned back to look at Elder Dal. We deserve the truth, Sung said quietly. Dal nodded slowly. Perhaps. But 800 years ago, the galaxy wasn't ready for humans. The question now is, are humans ready for the galaxy? The entire council station suddenly shook violently, from side to side. Lights flickered off and then red emergency lights came on instead. Council members grabbed onto their seats and tables to keep from falling. What's happening? Shouted the council chair, looking around in alarm. Director Hyun rushed to a control panel and checked the readings. Her face grew very serious as she turned back to the council. The ancient defense network has fully awakened, she announced. It's trying to remove what it sees as impossible beings, the humans. The system is targeting all human life signs. Fear spread quickly through the large chamber. Many council members ran toward the emergency shelters. Others called for their ships to be prepared for immediate departure. Can we stop it? Asked the council chair, trying to maintain order. Can we override the defense system? Elder Dal shook his head slowly. No, we cannot. The systems work on their own and follow the original archive classifications. They were designed to be impossible to override, to prevent enemies from turning them off during an attack. As the station shook again, Engineer Hai stepped forward, from the human group. Let us help, she said simply. The council chair looked doubtful but nodded. What can you do? Take us to your main control center, Commander June requested. We'll need your best technical people to work with us. Within hours, the station's command center looked completely different. While most aliens hid in safe areas, the human team worked quickly alongside Archivist Tay and volunteers from several species who were good with technology. Equipment had been taken apart and put back together in new ways. Cables stretched across the floor, connecting different systems that had never been connected before. The humans moved with purpose, each person focused on their task. What exactly are you doing? Asked Tay, watching Engineer Hai connect two devices that didn't seem to belong together. The system thinks humans are fictional, not real, Hai explained, not looking up from her work. So we're making a feedback loop. When it scans for human life signs to target, we're reflecting the signal back to make it scan its own processing core instead. Tay blinked in confusion. You're making it target itself? Exactly, Commander June confirmed, working at another station. The system has to make a choice. Either accept that humans are real, or decide that it itself is fictional. It can't have both. That's creative thinking, Director Hyun said, sounding impressed. It's human thinking, Ambassador Sung replied. For 3 more hours they worked as the station continued to shake. Sometimes the gravity would suddenly get stronger, making everyone feel very heavy. Other times it would get weaker, causing people and objects to float off the floor. Finally, Engineer Hai connected the last cable. Ready, she called out. Commander June pressed a series of buttons. Activating now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the emergency lights flickered rapidly. The station shook one last time, more violently than before. Everyone held on to something to keep from falling. Then suddenly everything stopped. The normal lights came back on. The gravity returned to normal. It worked? Engineer Hai said, looking at a screen showing the defense system's status. The system has reclassified us. It now recognizes humans as real beings. When the council gathered again later that day, They found the human team tired but happy. Their clothes were wrinkled and dirty from crawling under equipment. Some had minor injuries from working during the gravity problems, but they had solved the problem when no one else could. Ambassador Sung stepped forward to address the council. "This is humanity," he said simply. "We solve problems, we adapt, we survive. And we would rather do all this as your friends than as characters in your stories." The council chair stood up and bowed slightly to Sung. "The council has voted. Humanity is welcomed into the galactic community." 1 month later, Archivist Tae stood again at the Central Archive Terminal. Director Hyun and the council chair watched as he entered a new classification into the system. Humans, paradoxical beings, formerly. Fictional, dangerous yet essential. Approach with caution and friendship. As this new information spread across all the connected systems in the galaxy, the Starship Horizon prepared to return to Earth. It would carry amazing news. Humanity had finally joined a galactic community that was still trying to believe they actually existed. On the bridge of the horizon, Commander June looked out at the stars. "Do you think they'll ever fully understand us?" he asked Ambassador Sung. Sung smiled. "Probably not. But that's what makes the future interesting."